everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a quick discussion of vintage lambskin and caviar leather from Chanel and comparing the two of them. So quickly to start, I believe, I am not an expert in this by any means, but I believe that the original Chanel bags were in a jersey fabric, but as soon as they started introducing them in leather with the invention of the 2.55, it was lambskin. So lambskin was kind of the only option for a long time, almost 50 years, maybe a little more. And then in the 90s, early 90s, caviar was introduced. So the vintage that I am going to be discussing today is actually mid to late 90s. And so that is what we're going to be comparing. Similar ages, I believe one is 96, 97, and the other is 99. So let's go ahead and get started. So these are the two items in question. So this pouch is the newer of the two. This is a vintage lambskin Chanel pouch. When I got it, it had slight discoloration to it. It has not aged since, but it does have that slight discoloration. This I just got, and I think it looks probably as brand new as it would. So this is a few years older, and this is in the caviar leather. So a couple things right off the bat. I generally prefer a lambskin. I find it more luxurious. I find it prettier. The lambskin does have a little more of a sheen to it, though I think that the caviar, this might be a little more of a shiny caviar. This one I think also does have a nice sheen to it. It definitely feels less soft. I wouldn't call it rough. It doesn't feel like it feels more sturdy. It doesn't feel more rough, but it definitely does not have the supple nature that the lambskin does. You can see them in a little bit more detail close up to one another, so you can see the different kind of graining that naturally exists in them. I shouldn't say naturally, because the caviar is kind of stamped. It is grained by hand, right? Or is man-made grain. It is not the natural grain like a pebbled leather sometimes is, or a grained calfskin. This is purposely created to have this texture compared to the natural texture of the lambskin. So a couple things about why they have the differences and maybe which one is best. So lambskin actually used to be more expensive because it is considered to be the more luxurious fabric. It is naturally more shiny. It does not need to be cleaned or have much shine attached to it. And it also holds color better. So it's sort of interesting. I wouldn't say that beige necessarily is a color so much, but it does hold color better. It is more likely to scratch, and mine here does not have too many scratches. It's in pretty good shape, but there are some light scratches, some natural kind of wrinkles that happen with this in a way that this one is really scratch proof. You really can't see any kind of scratching on it. It gets a little dirty, both of them can, but this is more likely to stain. As the lambskin is a little softer, it's also more malleable. This definitely feels more structured than it does. And I would say that these are all the similar properties of current lambskin versus caviar, except I think we all know that the vintage ones are a better quality leather. And personally, I am not interested in current Chanel. I'm really only interested in the quality that existed in vintage, and I like vintage leathers in general rather than newer ones. So I would say though that in terms of them holding up for 30 years, both of them, if treated well, do quite well, but the lambskin will show age a little faster than the caviar will. People compare lambskin and caviar all the time, but I did want to do it from a vintage perspective because there isn't much out there on how these leathers age. And I would say that they follow generally a very similar pattern. Typical caviar calfskin versus lambskin debate. I hope that this is helpful for you and that you've enjoyed looking at these pieces. I'm excited that I have two vintage Chanel pieces in my collection now. And I had never really been interested in caviar, but I do appreciate the structure and the carefree nature of it. this feels to me significantly less like plastic than newer Caviar does, and so I'm definitely more interested in it than I would be at all with the newer ones. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in a future video. Bye.